Yet another item is banned from one popular cruise line while another cruise line raises prices. But you're not going to believe why cruisers are mad about the price hike. Norwegian cancels a bunch of popular sailings, and I'm officially sick. Ahoy travelers, it's Amy here with your weekly Cruise News Roundup and my thoughts on some of the biggest stories of the week. Well, for those who are fans of sailing on Celebrity, you now have a new home port to sail from, Port Canaveral. Celebrity Cruises kicked off its first home porting season at Port Canaveral with the Celebrity Equinox this week. The ship is now the 15th to call Port Canaveral home, and Port Canaveral is the second busiest port in the U.S. Equinox just wrapped up a transatlantic voyage from Europe and docked in Port Canaveral for the first time on December 3rd. She will be offering mostly 7-night cruises to the Eastern or Western Caribbean, sailing through to late April of 2025. This is just the beginning, as Celebrity plans to bring an even bigger ship, the Apex, to Port Canaveral for the 25-26 season. The Apex will start its 7-night cruises from Central Florida in early November of 2025. Celebrity isn't the only line bringing ships into Port Canaveral. Princess Cruises is also setting up shop for its first run from Central Florida this year. The Caribbean Princess arrived in late November and will do 6 to 8 night cruises to the Southern and Eastern Caribbean. They're also set to bring the Sky Princess in for the 25-26 season, so there's going to be plenty of choices for those wanting to cruise out of Port Canaveral. Kind of starting to wonder if Port Canaveral might end up bumping up to number 1. Are these new arrivals going to be on your list? Now, I've never sailed out of Port Canaveral. In fact, our next cruise will be our first out of Florida when we get on the Celebrity Apex at Port Everglades. Well, Norwegian Cruise Line has just canceled 35 sailings on 4 of their most popular ships, the Bliss, Breakaway, Encore, and Joy. These sailings are from November of 25 to April of 26. Why? Fleet redeployment. So they are canceling all of these cruises that many people would have already had booked for up to a year so that they can move ships around. It looks like the Norwegian Bliss will be remaining in Los Angeles before returning to Seattle to begin the Alaska sailing season in April of 26. The Breakaway has canceled 10 sailings. Before and after the now canceled cruises, the ship is sailing from New York for the Caribbean, Barbados, Antigua, and Bahamas getaways, which the ship will then presumably continue throughout that period instead of moving to Florida for just over a month. I don't know why they had it heading down to Florida for 1 month anyway. The Encore was originally scheduled to move from Miami to LA for a short period, but those sailings have been canceled. The Joy had its 7-night Caribbean sailings canceled along with a few others, but it is the 23-night repositioning cruise to Seattle that may be the biggest disappointment for some people. Since the ship is still scheduled for the 2026 Alaskan season, the assumption is that a new repositioning cruise may be announced soon. Impacted guests are receiving a full refund and a 10% future cruise credit. Just a month ago, Norwegian canceled 38 cruises on the Jewel, Star, and Dawn. I'm not sure what's going on over there at NCL, but I know that I would be hesitant to book a cruise with them right now. This is 7 of the line's 19 ships that have been affected by mass cancellations in the last month. Now, that's a third of their ships, and all just for repositioning. Did they make bad decisions earlier? I don't know what's going on. Are you one of those that has been affected by these cancellations? Would a year's notice be enough for you? Now, my big issue with all of this is the cruise cost. Cruises are rarely cheaper than when the bookings are first available. So if you have to rebook on another ship for the same week because that is when your vacation is scheduled, then you're likely to have to pay more, especially if you did book it right after the original one got booked. Probably more than that 10% future cruise credit's going to cover. We had this issue with our MSC Norway cruise. They changed the itinerary, dropped off Geiranger Fjord, which is one of the main reasons we were even cruising. And then we were allowed to rebook, but we had to pay the difference. Of course, the cruise costs had gone up significantly since we had originally booked, and we didn't get any compensation for that. I believe if something like that happens, you should be able to rebook on a similar cruise for the same cost as your original booking. At the very least, the only difference you should have to pay is whatever the difference was between those two itineraries when they were first available to book. Well, Royal Caribbean has banned a new item, and this one is going to make the techies unhappy. Some cruisers have been using portable routers as a hack to get around purchasing internet packages on board Royal Caribbean ships. These portable Wi-Fi routers, which are small and can connect to the internet with just a data plan and a SIM or eSIM, allows users to set up private Wi-Fi networks for their devices. Internet packages are expensive on cruise lines. We all know that. And even with Starlink upgrades on Royal Caribbean ships, the internet can still be spotty. This can be a hassle for people who are needing internet access, especially those who may need to work remotely. This is something that's becoming more and more popular nowadays. People are going on cruises while they're still working. I put that in air quotes because I don't know how much people are working, but whatever. Well, now the cruise line has put a stop to that workaround, adding these routers to their list of banned items, which now explicitly bans satellite dishes, routers, and other networking equipment. This change happened sometime between November 22nd and then it was noticed on December 4th. Royal Caribbean is already enforcing this ban, with some cruisers saying they had routers confiscated during the security check on embarkation day. Well, have you ever gotten around purchasing cruise line Wi-Fi this way? Honestly, I would have never even thought to do this, but then I've only recently started purchasing Wi-Fi while cruising, and that's only due to this channel. Speaking of Wi-Fi, Carnival has quietly raised prices on their Wi-Fi and their Cheers package. But it isn't the Wi-Fi that has Carnival guests riled up. It's the alcohol that's doing it, and not for the reason that you might think. But before we discuss the Cheers package controversy, let's talk about the Wi-Fi package increase. All three Wi-Fi levels, social, value, and premium, saw price increases. Each has seen a minimum of a 12% increase. So the social Wi-Fi plan, which includes access to social media websites and apps, has increased the most. Of course, the lowest level, they upped that the most. Previously, the plan was $15.30 per day, per person, when purchased before sailing, and $18 a day when it was purchased on board. Now, the costs are $18.70 pre-cruise and $22 if you purchase it on board. That's a 22% increase. So the value Wi-Fi plan includes all social sites as well as limited internet browsing with a faster connection speed than the social option. The previous pricing was $19.55 pre-cruise and $23 when purchased on board, but it is now increased 13% to $22.10 pre-cruise, $26 on board. I don't know where they get these random prices. Why don't you just make them all even numbers? The premium Wi-Fi plan has increased the least. It was already expensive. Previously, the cost per day was $21.25 before sailing and $25 if you bought it on board, but guests will now have to pay 12% more, $23.80 when purchased pre-cruise, $28, remember, this is a day per person, when purchased on board. Now, do you usually purchase an internet package? If so, what level do you purchase, and would these increases change that level? Let me know. Carnival's Cheers package has been among the cheapest alcoholic drink packages available when it comes to cruising. At least if you're talking about just purchasing a drink package and it not being bundled with something else. And it's not surprising that frequent Carnival cruisers are upset about this increase, but you may be surprised at why they're upset that the line quietly raised cruise costs on their popular drink package. And it's the quietly part that seems to be upsetting cruisers the most, even more than the price hike itself. One person commented on John Heald's Facebook page, "When it comes to the Cheers increase, I think that people are most upset about is the fact that there was no announcement when Carnival usually announces their increases. The last time Cheers was increased, Carnival not only announced it, but gave people the opportunity to pre-purchase it ahead of Carnival's scheduled date of the increase so they could lock in that current rate. I still think it's definitely worth the money for those who take advantage of it, but an announcement, like it's been done in the past, would have been greatly appreciated by many of your guests." There were quite a few similar comments. Not all were as nice as that first one. One person mentioned that he was expecting to log in and see a discount for Cyber Monday or Travel Tuesday, and instead found a price increase. So how much has the drink packages increased? Well, that depends on the length of your cruise. Previously, those on longer sailings were charged less per day for the cheers package, with those on short sailings paying the most per day cost. Now, everyone is going to be paying the same higher daily cost. The price change has been noted on Carnival's website. Guests on sailings of 6 nights or longer could previously prepay $70.74 per night compared to $82.54 per night for itineraries of 5 nights or less. So when purchased on board, longer sailings would pay $76.64 per night, while shorter sailings would pay $88.45 per night. So all prices already include that mandatory 18% service charge. This is why I say you don't really need a tip. You do bar service on Carnival, they're already charging you that tip. Now, only the higher prices are listed, and any reference to that discount for longer sailings is gone from the website. This is roughly 16% per day increase for travelers on those longer sailings. Because of the duration of the cruises that are impacted by the change, this can be a significant extra expense for travelers. So for example, on a 7-night cruise, the most common length of cruise that's offered by Carnival Cruise Line, guests will now pay $82.60 more per person for the week to purchase that cheers package. John Heel took some heat from the recent price adjustments on his Facebook page. Let me also say this, please. We are proud of the quality and value a Carnival Cruise Vacation provides all of you. Recent nominal price adjustments to help cover higher costs and our investments in onboard offerings allow us to continue providing the high-quality experiences our guests know and love. Which, of course, does not address the fact that they didn't give anybody a notice about this, and that's what everybody's mad about. There were, among the well-written, thoughtful, and passionate comments, some that really made me laugh. Scott asked if I had been wearing a contraceptive. Don suggested I throw myself off a cliff. I always get tickled when I read his responses to people griping at him, but I don't know how he does it. While the majority of the people commenting are positive or at least nice about their complaints, there are still some pretty messed up comments. It's unfortunate that some people feel like they can say whatever they want when it's online. Things that I am sure they wouldn't say to someone's face. So, are you planning on cruising a Carnival cruise coming up and you didn't have your cheers package purchased, but you were getting ready to do it? Maybe you were waiting for the hit from purchasing a bunch of Christmas presents to die off, and you were waiting for that your bank balance to jump back up before you purchased it, and now it's going to cost you even more. Anybody out there? I'd like to know. Well, I hope all my U.S. viewers had a great Thanksgiving and were able to take a break and enjoy time with friends and family. I had Thanksgiving off this year. I alternate between working Thanksgiving and Christmas every other year, since my job is one where someone has to be there 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Now, I ended up with a 4-day weekend, which was amazing. It was like a mini vacation. Wednesday, after running some errands, I went over to my mom's and helped along with my nieces to prep everything for the next day. Thanksgiving Day itself went well. The women went on an afternoon walk. Then I played Settlers of Catan with my nieces and nephews. Is it Catan? Catan? I hear it both ways. My 14-year-old niece wiped the floor with all of us again. I don't know how she does it, but she rarely loses at Catan. I used to have like a list of every time we played, and I would put who won. She almost always wins. Well, the cold weather is really starting to hit here in the Ozarks. It was 17 degrees Fahrenheit overnight Thursday into Friday. That's a perfect time for my fireplace to go on the fritz. Actually, it actually started right before Thanksgiving when my fireplace blower started acting funny. It was kicking on and off like every 30 seconds or so. Sometimes I could shut it off for a while and then it would work for a couple of hours before acting up or quitting altogether. My dad and nephew pulled the fireplace, which was a huge pain. It's a big deal to do it. And Dad checked the blower and thermostat, and of course, it worked fine for him. Then it quit again on me. So he came and he hung out at my house for like an hour waiting for it to act up, which, of course, it didn't. I said I was going to have him just come and live at my house so that it would just keep working. It's like taking your car to the mechanic and then it won't make that clanking noise when the mechanic drives it. Anyway, I've kept a fire going regardless. Even when the blower isn't working, the fire at least helps with the heat. We're waiting for the cold snap to get over before pulling it again, and then Dad is just going to replace the blower. Now, I'm hoping the new one will also be quieter than this one. Ever since I moved into this house, that thing has been so loud, you about can't watch TV with it running. Thankfully, that isn't my only heat source, but it is the cheapest since it really doesn't cost me anything. The firewood magically makes it to my house thanks to my dad, brother, and nephews. They go out, cut down. We have a lot of acreage. They go down and cut down trees. We've got a wood splitter, and so they come and they bring it to me, put it on my front porch. The only thing I buy are starter logs. I started doing that last year, and I split those into at least 6 pieces. I don't use one log to start a fire. That's dumb. I split it up, and I just need a little bit, just a little piece. And then I only use them if the fire's completely gone out. There's nothing there to build off of. Now, I even get all my newspapers from work, so I don't even purchase anything to help start the fire up except for those fire logs. Now, of course, fireplace isn't the only heat I have. I have central air and heating, but I learned after my first winter month in the house that I could not afford to heat it alone with just electric. Old houses just don't keep heat in very well, so being able to shut off most of the house and then heat the main part with the fireplace saves me a ton of money. Now, does anyone else out there heat with a fireplace? Not a wood furnace, but an actual fireplace? Is that even a thing anymore? Well, as you can probably tell, I have a cold. I have been fighting the yearly snotty nose where sometimes runny, sometimes stuffed up. I've been doing that for weeks. But yesterday, I was sneezing quite a bit throughout the day. That's a very good sign that I'm about to get a head cold. I usually get one twice a year, like usually in the fall, winter, when it starts getting cold outside, then again in the spring when the temperature changes again. Yesterday, while shopping and running errands, I got a massive headache that came on quickly and was one of the worst I've ever had. My head hurt from my temples, just all the way down into my teeth, my top teeth. My teeth! That was a new one. Then I woke up this morning all stuffed up with a head full of cotton and a just slightly sore throat. As if that wasn't enough, I decided to burn trash this morning, and there was a lot of it. Now, my burn barrels need to be dumped, so there wasn't a lot of room for the trash. And I went to grab the fire poker, which just is a long piece of rebar that I leave in the barrel, and it had melted trash bag on it, which is now stuck to my finger. I don't know if you can see that. It's not that bad anymore, but every time I wash it, a little bit comes off, but it still kind of hurts. It's not as bad as it could have been. You would have thought getting melted plastic stuck to your finger, but I wiped it off really quickly. Now, all this, I just may have to go back to bed for the rest of the day. Well, are you ready for more information on cruising? Have you ever thought about cruising during the winter? Why not stick around and check out this video where I go over all the reasons that cruising during the winter is one of our favorite times to cruise. And then come back for more information designed to help you have an amazing cruise. Have a blessed week, everyone.